Hello, friend, and welcome to Strange New Borgcast 1.4 with Anne-Marie and Peter.
Hello.
Hello, it's the good one. Yay.
There's only one of the bad one to go, so, you know.
Yes.
Anyway, that's by the by.
Yes, that's by the way.
Tonight we cover Memento Mori.
Yeah.
So that's our Trek bingo for the evening. Pretentious Latin titles.
Yes.
It means remember you will die.
Does it?
Yes.
Happiness, the greatest gift that I possess. I thank the Lord that I've been blessed with more than my share of happiness.
There's a tune. Anyway, written by Davy Perez. It sounds like a pirate to me.
It does.
And Beau de Mayo, which sounds like some sort of sauce.
Pirate sauce.
This euphemism. The good stuff. The format has the smiliest IMDb picture ever, worth checking out, and is an executive producer on Strange New Worlds. It was also written first. Well, not the old animated Supernaturals thing, but you know, the series Supernatural. Beau de Mayo is a supervising producer on Strange New Worlds and written an episode of the excellent Moonliget. This particular episode was directed by Dan Liu? Yep. Liu, yep. Who directed 2 episodes of For All Mankind and several Walking Deads.
Okay.
Yes.
Sensors are detecting a slight optical distortion near the second moon. A hologram, sir.
Raise shields now!
Ray Shields, red alert!
We can't. The transport tube. We can't raise shields.
On move.
It's the goal.
So, you start with La'an's log.
They do like their logs, don't they? Practically every episode is a log starter, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so was Next Gen, though, wasn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah. And they're delivering a atmospheric processor upgrade to this planet, which, if they don't deliver it in time, it's going to be, people are going to start dying in a matter of weeks. And it's also Starfleet Remembrance Day, where they remember people that they've served with and lost, and they wear the insignia of the ships that those people served on, which they served at, oh God, words! Where they served on a ship with someone who died, they wear the insignia of that ship. There we go, that's a better way of explaining it, sorry. Except La'an, who's just like, no, the past is the past. I won't revisit it. Which I've got some sympathy with. I'm never going to go to a school reunion, for example. But if you don't deal with the past, it can cause problems. So anyway, you've then got Uhura is on secondment to engineering, so she's with Hamer. Lay, 2 of my fishes. Sorry. But also, to be fair, though, I really like this particular pairing of not of fish, of characters. I think they work really well together. I think the dynamic between the 2 actors is really good.
Yes, they've got good chemistry.
Yeah. And I really like something that Discovery didn't do so well, certainly when we were last watching it, which was admittedly a while back. It's a really good friendship. There's nothing else there. There's no sexual anything.
Absolutely
it's just,
not.
And it's good to see good friendships, isn't it? So Hamer's asking Uhura about the equipment they're installing, and she ends up eventually reading off all the stuff, and then she says, well, engineering is like linguistics. It's 2 unrelated systems trying to communicate with each other. And Hamer's like, well, if you're trying to impress me, you're going to have to do better. And she's like, challenge accepted, which is good. Because the thing is, as well, when he's saying things you've got to do better to impress me, he's not being mean about it.
No.
He's not, and when she says challenge accepted, it's with a smile on her face. I like that. But I do wonder whether, partly, is he being like that with her because he's sort of ish like Troy, because he's got that telepathy thing?
No, I think he's just generally a crosspatch. And he's probably like that with everybody.
Whereas she seems to respond quite well to that.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. They go to the planet that needs the atmospheric processor, and there's a lot of interference from a large brown dwarf. No, it's not John Rhys-Davies who's shitting his pants.
Oh, lovely.
Sorry. And then it's like, well, actually, no, it's not from that. They're not getting a response. What is the reason? So they report this to Starfleet, and then Pike says, you need to be on a go slow. Don't make any assumptions on sending a landing party down. So they send the landing party down, and they spot blast marks from a skirmish. And then suddenly there's a hound dog barking because there's Gorn on the bayou.
And I can still hear my old hound dog barking. Chase them down, who do they? Chase them down, who do they? Born on the bayou. Born on the bayou. Born on the bayou.
Yeah, that's a bit of a push, I can't help feeling, but never mind.
No, but there is, because that's what we discover. And there is a hound dog barking. And at that point, our dog Fizz was enwrapped. And it wasn't an evacuation, it was a massacre. There's loads of blood, but no bodies. And then an unidentified ship appears. So Pike's like, yeah, we've got an identified ship now, so we're beaming you back up. And I like that. There's no let's wait and see. All the AT was on the planet. You get a bit of that.
For a trait change in emergency, the transporters actually work.
Yes, as well. But if this was a Next Gen episode, they'd still be on the planet, and then they'd be worried later. And so they're about to sort of say, this is a real problem because they're hailing and no answer, and then they get hailed. And this is what I don't quite understand. The ship that they're on is a cargo ship with a transport-resistant hull. Why would you do that?
It's something to do with radiation. That's never come up before, as I said. It's definitely plot convenience.
Yeah, so they have to use one of them big, long, tubey things,
yes.
like in
Discovery.
Blake 7.
Well, funnily enough, I went to a Blake 7 place as well. We did see them in Discovery, linking Discovery and Enterprise, interestingly. But yes, it always makes me think of the scene where Johnny Briggs' dad corks it.
Yep. That's in the... Oh, gosh.
It's the second episode, I think.
Second episode, what's it called, though?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not very good on episode Blake 7, I'm afraid.
Fair enough. They say to the people who are they're rescuing, what happened, and they said that suddenly they were attacked from above. There was like a ringing sound, and then everything went blurry, and they don't really know what else happened. There's only about 100 survivors. They don't really know what happened to the rest of the colony, just that there weren't any bodies. And then there's a girl who says, monsters are coming, hide, which really made me think of Newt. And I was kind of surprised she didn't say they mostly come out at night. Mostly.
Spacefall, by the way, is the... I think
okay.
Yeah.
And she starts doing these clicking noises, which immediately has alarmed sort of...
it's dolphins!
They can be vicious bastards, to be fair.
Not generally out of the water, though.
No, they're too busy in cetacean ops.
Yes.
So straight away, La'an goes, you need to scan for polarised EM signatures. And then what I don't get is that I know that they're trying to keep you guessing, but when they say to her, what is it? She's like, I'm not sure or something. And it's just like, well, no, you are sure. It's the Gorn.
Not definitely sure, I suppose, but anyway. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just think, shouldn't she say it's
She has her suspicions at this point, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, then it's like suddenly it becomes, oh shit, we've got to raise shields now, but they can't because of the...
transport tube, which is a very good reason for the shields not to work.
Yeah, because there'll be a gap in them.
Yes, exactly. So that I like that. They've thought that one through, and it's not just shields are inoperable for some reason. It's hang on a minute, we can't because we're tethered to another ship at the moment.
Yeah, and yes, it definitely is the Gorn. And then La'an sees the face of someone. You later find out it's her brother, but at this stage you don't know. And then she's coming to on the Enterprise because when they were attacking, she just froze. And
hang on, you've missed an important thing here.
Have I?
Yes. We don't get to do this so often, so we're going to make the most of it.
Now it's time to get anal about spaceships.
Woohoo! Took a trip on a Gemini spacecraft, and I thought about you.
Oh, fine.
So the Gorn ship, which is a cool design, but as ever with this series and indeed Discovery, we really don't get a good look at it. Partly it's just everything moves fast.
Yeah.
apparently these days, so it's just a blur. And partly this one in particular spins all over the blinking place.
Yeah.
And you just got the impression the Gorn inside are like sort of strapped to the walls going as it spins round and round and round like those fairground rides.
I think they're one of them thingy whatsits. Oh God.
Liquidizer?
No, gyro something where they stay still.
Oh right, so they've got a bit in the middle that's not moving around.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's a poor designers. They must weep. They go to all the trouble of doing these ships, and then all you see is a blur.
Yeah. See, I focused on the ships later when they're a bit less blurry.
Mm-hmm. But you don't really get the mothership. You see better
Yeah.
because at least that one's moving at a reasonable speed. Although even that one at the end sort of turns
Yeah,
over
does.
180 degrees, and you go, "Oh, blow my neck."
Yeah. But then there's no gravity, so why does that matter?
Well, presumably they have in the ship. Otherwise, they're all over the place all the time. So
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Unless there's permanently adjustable gravity.
Well, I say your idea that there's some sort of gyroscopic thing going on whereby the inside is kept stable, whereas the outside twists around. But why would you do that? I don't know.
I don't know. Don't know. Anyway, yes, as the ship that you barely see is coming towards them, Arm freezes. And when she comes to, she starts apologising.
So this is after the teaser, which is 11 minutes in this week.
Yeah, she starts apologising, and Una is like, it's fine, but, if it is the Gorn, they're going to need you on the bridge. She's bleeding, but she says she'll be fine. And I'm guessing that she thinks she will be because of a nanite, whatever it is she's got.
Nighty, yes. She's got a very strong nighty on that's keeping her insides in, yeah.
Yeah, or she's got a really bad nightie that looks like one your nan would wear, which is why it's failing.
There's a vision I didn't need, thank you.
Sorry. And then she gets onto the bridge and she says it's the Gorn. We've got to retreat, and because Pike's trying to come up with other plans, and she's like, no, they're going to tire us out. This was all a trap. You've got to trust me, Captain.
It's a trap!
Yep, we've got to retreat. That's fine. It's like, right, okay, I'm going to make you acting number one again. Then there's this giant gas cloud, but it's being pulled towards the black hole, but it's the only place we can go, and it's like, well, we won't have all these things, loads of stuff won't work in there, and it's like, yeah, but neither for our enemy either.
Yeah, it's all very Star Trek 2, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's like, right, okay.
Which I guess was a lot of their inspiration for this story, because we
Yeah.
get an awful lot of submarine type spaceship
Yes,
stuff, which is
yeah.
cool. I'm not complaining.
Yeah,
They
it's
can
good.
do this as
It's
often as
good.
they like, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So they then take direct fire at the sick bay and the main cargo bay, and so that they've got no choice; they've got to go in. In the main cargo bay, Uhura comes to help Hamer, who's got something, I don't know what it is.
He's got
presumably
the
a crate or
coolant
something
system stuck on his hand.
And his hand's crushed. I mean, every now and again they hold it up to the camera and show it all floppy and wonky, don't they? The doors.
Oh, I could crush a grape.
No, what? No, he wouldn't say that. What are you on?
You not remember that catchphrase?
Yes, but I don't understand what it has to do with this scene.
Well, his hand's been crushed like a grape.
I see. Okay.
What was that from, anyway?
Crackerjack.
Crackerjack.
Specifically with Stu Francis.
Right.
Oh, how
But
dare
why?
you.
Why did they say I could crush a grape?
Ooh, I could crush a grape.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it was every week, wasn't it?
Yes.
I can't think why.
No. I have no idea.
Simple things pleased us as kids in the 80s, I tell you.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I think I assumed that because he didn't have a London accent, it was a phrase where he was from.
It was done in a sort of faux northern accent, wasn't it? Or
But
possibly an
maybe he
actual
maybe
name.
he was Northern. I don't know.
Oh, now I'm going to have to look up Stu Francis. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Started this. You started this.
British comedian, yeah.
Yeah. In inverted commas.
Yeah. Born in Bolton, so that's not a faux northern accent, that's an actual northern accent.
Is "Ooh, I could crush a grape" a phrase in Bolton?
I don't know. He went on to host Ultra Quiz in 85 and Border TV's Crush a Grape in 1987. They actually had a TV series called it as well. Wow. He also released a single in 1983. It can play out to this. Guess what it was called?
"Ooh, I could crush a
Yep!
grape." Oh, I need to hear that. I need to hear that.
When life feels good like you know it should, and you're riding high and you touch the sky, then say it with me. Ooh, I could crush a grape. When life feels great and you celebrate, 'cause you're number one, then say it with me. Ooh, I could crush a grape. Ooh, I could jump off a doll's house, I can pop a balloon. I could swing on a lamppost, I could go to the moon. I could find a fairy, I could cuddle a cat. Ooh, I could rip a tissue when life feels fine.
Wow, that was painful.
It was
absolutely
bad.
painful.
It was bad.
Oh, but he didn't have to try very hard to get a single in those days, did you? God.
No.
Anyway,
Where the fuck was I before that happened?
well, we were talking about Hamer's hand being crushed like a grape. That's how we got there.
That's how you got there. Uhura can't take him to sickbay because the door is blocked. Meanwhile, in sickbay, they've got no proper power. So they've got like your emergency backups, but they don't have the medical replicators, so they don't have half of the stuff they need. And all they can do is triage and try and just do their best to stop people dying, but they can't make anybody any better. And what they really need is supplies.
Supplies.
You nutter. They can't fire torpedoes. A, they only have one of them. And B, because like if they did, it would just
Set
blow
off
them.
the
Set off
brown
everything.
dupe star they're in. Yeah.
It would be brown death or something. I don't know.
Brown everywhere.
Yeah.
A brown dwarf is a thing, by the way. A Nearly star. They're not quite big enough for fusion to kick in, so they end up with a lower mass than a star, but bigger than a gas giant.
Right.
Theorised in the 1960s and identified in the mid-90s.
Nice.
Yeah, science. See, we cover the whole ground between science and Stu Francis I Could Crush a Grape. We're a completist podcast. Where else would you get this breadth of coverage? Where else would you want this breadth of coverage? I suppose.
That's assuming they want the breadth of coverage that we're giving them.
The episode is going to be called I Could Crush a Grape.
Yeah, it has
though,
to
I
be.
suspect.
Yes. Lan says that as far as the Gorn concerned, human beings are prey.
Yeah, this description really makes them out to be, absolutely vicious killing machines. And then when we meet them in arena, it's not quite that way, is it? It's just guy doing wrestling moves on Shatner.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a bit.
I mean, theoretically, according to the description, he should have wandered up to Kirk and just bitten his head off, basically,
Yeah.
rather than the ridiculous fight we got in arena.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was particularly arthritic Gorn or something that could barely move. Or perhaps he was a vegetarian. I don't know.
Or he just looked at it and went, shat by name, shat by nature.
Yes.
Anyway, Pike takes Anna to one side and says, because after she gives this speech about how we're just prey, says that it's not just our job to sort of say what needs doing and come up with solutions, it's also to give hope. And she's like, well, okay, I can make that adjustment, because normally she sort of cuts through everything to say what needs doing, which can make her appear blunt, but can also be a clear advantage in a military situation. She says, okay, I'll make that adjustment, but I'm not going to lie to anybody.
Would I lie to you, baby? Would I lie to you? Oh, yeah.
Oh dear, no.
We're better off just to crush a fucking grave.
No, we are not, but anyway.
And then Pike's response is, well, something about how the truth is the main source of hope or something. And then she talks about how, he's like, is there anything you can tell us? And she says she's got trauma-inhibited memory, so all she gets is sort of snapshots. In the meantime, in the cargo bay, Uhura is acting as Hamer's hands. And initially, she's all sort of jittery and nervous, and he sort of calms her down and talks her through things and what it is that she's...
This absolutely ridiculous control system.
Yes.
What sort of control system means you have to use two hands independently and you can't look at both screens at once? That's
Playing
just
the piano?
mad.
Well,
Absolutely.
you can't look at the piano and the music?
I suppose so, but even so, because those are reconfigurable. I mean, a piano isn't reconfigurable. Once you sat in front of a piano and found the middle key, you're away. The control system on the Enterprise isn't like that. The only thing I can think is this is specifically geared up for Hamer because, of course, he's blind.
Yes, it
so
doesn't matter what they say.
But that's all very well for Hamer. It's, as we find out, completely awful for everybody else. That's very selfish of him.
Well, no, because the other thing is that it could be also that it's designed to be worked by two people.
Oh, possibly, yes. And now that's a good reason, yeah. They should have said that, really, shouldn't they?
Possibly they did and we missed it because
No.
you were thinking of Stu Francis.
I wasn't thinking of Stu Francis at the time. You brought up Stu Francis.
No, you fucking brought up Stu Francis.
I brought up Crush a Grape. You brought up Stu Francis.
That's because Stu Francis said who I
There we
Crush
go.
a
See,
Grape.
I didn't need that level of detail, and now you just made it worse. Let's move on.
Am I going to have to tickle you?
No, because I've got beer in my hand.
Am I going to have to put your beer down and tickle you?
Carry on.
Meanwhile, the captain having talked about getting creative, Spock gets creative and managed to do a thing
Yeah.
with the thing.
With the navigational things to turn it into sensors so they can
track the
Gorn and get one ping visibly. That's basically where this
Yeah.
boils down to.
they get the pings, but you get loads of other submarine stuff,
Yeah.
don't you? Get the
Dive,
creaking
dive.
noises, dive.
Yeah.
They don't actually have alarm,
But they
which
may as
should.
well have done, really. Yeah.
So they use this tracking system to identify the ship, and they drop a torpedo on them manually,
Bombs away.
which is great because they blow it up. But then there's multiple incoming ships, and it turns out they sacrificed their own ship in order to get the Enterprise's location.
That's hardcore, isn't it? That's good stuff. One of the ships is approaching. He's a lot bigger because it's the mothership. Spock amusingly accidentally suggests going deeper into the brown dwarf. Pike reckons they can outlast the pressures longer than the Gorn. He ends up having to seal some crew in behind bulkheads to save the ship, and Kyle is lucky to escape. The ship prepares for boarding, but one of the Gorn ships implodes as it approaches, so it turns out Pike was right. Una orders someone else gets the blood that she needs, which is all very noble.
Yep.
And with the ship at risk of being sucked into a black hole along with the Brown Star, La'an and Spock volunteer to take a shuttle out to see if the coast is clear. Arguably, isn't the shuttle going to get sucked in a lot quicker? But anyway.
I don't understand these things. I don't know.
We barely see the mothership seemingly scanning the remaining smaller craft. You really do have to wince at the screen to be able to see these things clearly. La'an tells Spock of encountering the Gorn when aboard a colony ship, the SS Puget Sound, which is the latest hit by Stu Francis. She asks him to mind meld her to find buried memories of that encounter. Here come the continuity police, Nina, Nina, because Spock claimed that he had never mind melded with a human before in Dagger of the Mind. So that's all a bit insulting to La'an, really, isn't it? But never mind.
Maybe she isn't human.
She is human. Turns out the lights are the Gorn's communication method, and her brother, in her memory, gives her the code that they use, which does stretch imagination how he worked that one out, but never mind.
Also, isn't it just a form of Morse code?
Yeah, basically. In turn, La'an learns about Michael from Spock, which I guess is an interesting callback. Spock modifies the shuttle's phases so that La'an can signal that humans have taken over the smaller vessel, which is then destroyed by the mother. Uhura gets the coolant system back online, and she chats with Hamer about how he came to be in Starfleet, with the Enar being pacifists. He makes the distinction between pacifism and passivity in the face of ideals being challenged, which is an interesting one. Her repairs unfortunately have come too late, and they have to vent the bay. With them in it, oh dear. With La'an and Spock back on board, they find themselves being sucked into the black hole, and Pike suggests using it to slingshot them out and use the freaky effects of it on light to fool the Gorn ship into thinking that they're holding position. Then they drop their AP-350 air filter and make it look like they got squished. Hamer and Uhura suit up and strap in.
And tune out?
Yes. Pike gives an inspiring speech to the crew, which boils down to, never give up, never surrender. And they're off. We get a beautiful shot of the black hole, but sadly they're not such a great beauty shot of the Enterprise coming out, because again, it's all blurred. Why does everything always have to be blurred? Honestly. We know they're going fast. You don't have to blur it. It has to be said that there is an increasing problem that back in the day, black holes were really, really dangerous things that you never went anywhere near. More and more these days, you can just dance around, zip round them, go in, go out, appear in a bookcase.
Oh,
Yeah. Hey-ho. The good news is their foe has gone away. But there's a long dramatic pause before they make contact with Uhura and Hamer. If this had been Discovery, we'd have had 5 minutes of crying before they found them.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they don't do that on this ship. Stiff upper lip, guys. Having lost 7 crew members, La'an warns about what happens next time the Gorn attack. We'll be ready for them, Pike says. Okay. In sickbay, we see that Mbenga is operating on the person Una gave blood to, while simultaneously giving the first officer his blood on an IV drip thing. Good job he's got the same blood type as a non-human, isn't it? Wow.
Or he's got the blood type that anyone can have.
Yeah, but there's a blood type any human can have. It's a bit of a stretch to say any alien as well. I mean, maybe. I don't know, but...
Well, maybe she's close enough to human. You don't know.
Anyway, this is kind of like Rafa Khan meets Next Generation's Disaster.
Yes, there's nobody giving birth. You haven't got what I love about Disaster
kids in
is
turbulence.
Worf the midwife.
Oh, that is good, yes.
That's brilliant. I love Worf the midwife.
We also get some added fleshing out of La'an's backstory and the Gorn. And it's effective that we don't see them in this, particularly considering how naff they look in Enterprise in
Yeah.
the original series. And all credits them for not inventing a new foe that then we have to jump through hoops explaining what we've never heard of again. Much better to big up an old foe, and we'd actually seen them physically, so it doesn't matter too much that when Kirk faced off against one that was supposedly their first meeting, but if the fact that they're in ships here, it doesn't matter. So anyway, good fun. Excellent stuff. Excellent
really
stuff.
liked it. Really good fun. Makes me want to watch a submarine movie now.
One ping, Vasily.
Oh,
Right,
that's food.
before we
Oh.
start singing Russian, let's find out what people thought of this episode.
And we've heard from Boss, who writes, I really enjoyed this episode. I'm loving the characters and the writing. It was only slightly marred by me not being able to think of the Gorn without thinking of the monster in the apron from Arena.
Yes, quite.
Yeah.
We've heard from Ol.
Hello, Peter and Anne-Marie, it's Ol here, and I'm going to talk to you about the Strange New Worlds episode Memento Mori, which I think is a good example of what Strange New Worlds does that Star Trek traditionally has done quite well, which is to bounce from style to style, much like Doctor Who. If you don't like this week's episode, we'll come back next week because it'll be different. And this time we get it always feels at the start like it's a horror episode, which it isn't really. It's a submarine movie. In many ways, it's a remake of the best submarine movie ever made, which is of course Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And yes, if you want to remake Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, this is how you do it. Looking at you, Into Darkness, as a extremely poor remake of Wrath of Khan. We have lots of stuff here that is reminiscent of that movie, most notably obviously the Nebula thing, which stops shields and that working, and then hunting the enemy through the gas clouds. It just shows how far we've come, that we can do it now on a TV budget, probably quite a large TV budget, but it's a TV budget. Whereas it was mind-blowing to see anything like that on Star Trek II on the big screen. In terms of character stuff this week, obviously La'an is the centerpiece character, but everyone seems to get something to do. I really enjoy Hema and Uhura's relationship. I think that's a really sweet pairing, where he's all grumpy and I don't know if cynical is quite the right word, because I think once he gets into his beliefs, you see it's not really cynicism, but he is quite a grumpy, cynical kind of person, and she's far younger and more naive, but also, she has a history, and it's I don't know, they just make a lovely pair. I really enjoyed that whole subplot of those two stuck together, and her doing engineering despite it not being her thing, really enjoying it, and him grudgingly accepting her and seeing her value. Yeah, it's good fun. Obviously, the main plot is the cat and mouse game with the Gorn. Lovely to see them back, although we don't see them back. We just see their ships, but it works continuity-wise. I think it's a bold choice, shall we say, for Strange New Worlds of all the pantheon of Star Trek baddies, to pick the Gorn as being their sort of signature featured bad guy. It does seem that that's the way they're going, that they are being built up to be a significant threat. And I quite appreciate, I know some people may disagree, but I quite appreciate not having to deal with Klingons for a bit, because I'm sick to the back teeth of them. They stopped being interesting sometime around about 1988, to be brutally honest. So yeah, not much else to say on this one. I think, I genuinely quite liked it. I thought it was good fun. It was really engaging, really tense. And yeah, more please. Looking ahead, next week is one of my absolute favourite episodes of Strange New Worlds, and again we have the genre jumping fun to look forward to. So yeah, top notch. Really enjoyed it. Enjoy the podcast. I will speak to you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I agree. It is top notch. I haven't seen Into Darkness. So I don't plan on it.
No.
But yes, this is a good way to do Wrath of Khan. And
I still think, I'm sorry, perhaps it's just me being an old fuddy-duddy, but model effects, Star Trek Wrath of Khan, still much better than anything CG has done ever since. It's just, that feels far more real and a lot less blurry as well. I realise it's a lot more expensive and time-consuming, but ultimately, we've got the technology to do something that looks as good as that. Why do you fall back on, cheaper, I suppose. But anyway, grouse. Discuss, folks. Let us know if you prefer this sort of look. And I will judge you.
What I find when quite often you're squeeing over models and I'm just not understanding it is that...
I hasten to add, models aren't always better. And obviously you can achieve a lot more with CG than you can with models. But ultimately, Rafa Khan, they work to the limitations perfectly. And it just looks real.
Yeah. But what I generally find is that a CG ship won't always look real, but when still, if that makes sense. But models, I'm more likely to notice that they aren't moving the way I expect them to. Whereas a CG ship, you can get the effects.
But you have to admit the effects in Rafa Khan are just... Mwah.
They are, but in terms of like TV shows, bearing in mind this is a TV show.
Well, a lot of the time next gen, I mean, there wasn't a great deal of variety. That was the problem. And you did get those terrible locked-off battles where the Enterprise was just sitting there, firing at a Klingon ship that was just sitting there.
Yeah, whereas, you can get more movement,
There's got to be some in between, though, between that and jinking things all over the place blurred so you can't see them.
Yeah.
It's like we've just gone from one extreme to the other.
I suppose, but there will be times where you look at that amazing model, and I might agree with you in principle when it's a static shot or like you're panning over the model, but often movement isn't so good. Whereas with CG, I find the movement better. So I kind of feel they haven't, with telly in particular, they haven't yet found a happy medium.
Mm-hmm.
I think both approaches are flawed, and I suspect that's budget, because telly doesn't have the budget of a movie, does it?
Mm.
And possibly you could do really well with either.
Again, a lot of it is the fact that models you take a lot longer to film.
Yeah.
To get looking decent. Anyway, I mean, dear old Doctor Who used to do it on video, and it just looked terrible.
Yes.
I'm not missing Klingons either. I think definitely a better move to go with this one with Gorn, personally.
Yeah, I think the only problem with the Gorn is if you know what they look like Boss says, the lizard in an apron.
Yeah, well, obviously they get round in this by not showing the buggers. So
yeah. which is fine, but I'm glad they haven't gone with a well-worn enemy.
Yes, or indeed, as I say, invented a new one that then you have to pretend doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's not so good either. So yeah, it's a bold choice. And yes, they are a sweet pairing, aren't they, Uhura and Homer?
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
What did Sampo and Yona make of this?
Hello.
Hello.
So we just watched, I don't know what the episode name was.
I guess the episode name is What Are Gorns?
Yeah, okay, well, let's start off with, I really liked this episode. This was like the sort of science fiction that really gets me hard, but so to speak. But yeah,
so it's
well,
this,
okay. Okay, not literally. Not literally.
Because they almost died. And
No, because all the exciting spaceship stuff, that's the one thing I like.
Okay.
I mean, it was all like Wrath of Khan, really. But, okay. Of course, I mean, some of the horror and excitement elements were a bit downgraded because all I could think of was the Gorn from the original series. And if they had actually bought it, the Enterprise, they were, the big lizard men with the slow swooping punches and throwing rocks and all that.
Yeah, probably.
But I really enjoyed this. This was really up my alley, so to speak.
Good.
So what do you think?
I think the episode was... I don't know. I don't have much to say because it was so grim. They almost died. A bunch of human kind of creatures died.
Yeah.
And they had to use their archaeological... what's it?
I can't remember what archaeological...
Medical.
Something like
stuff.
that. I didn't really get it.
So that means that they had... Well, I don't know. Why did the... what's the doctor's friend who helps him?
Nurse Chapel.
So the doctor asked the nurse if she could sew, and then she was like, yeah, I'm ace in it.
Mm.
And then he did the work.
Yeah, and she was holding the light.
So she was a lamp.
I assume there was a scene missing where she tried to sew Una up, but then she was so bad at it that the doctor was just like, nah, let me do it. You hold the light. or not?
Mostly this series is so well made that I don't have to pick on these little petty issues, but
Yeah.
that's the only thing I can remember that happened that was mentioned.
Yeah, when watching Buck Rogers, I mean, nitpicking gets us through the whole feedback. So here, which was basically, I enjoyed it very much from beginning to end, but I really also don't have very much to say about it. So maybe we can actually...
The space was looking nice.
Space was nice. Surfing up black hole. I mean, who wouldn't like that? Yeah, but maybe the episode was... Maybe the black hole dilated this feedback, so it's actually shorter here, but back on Earth it would take like 7 days.
I don't think I have much to say because it was very straightforward and the plot was functioning well and the characters were acting like they should have been acting, and the one that had trauma didn't actually heal but tried to do her best and did, and then Pike gave her little shoulder bump and then they were like, yes, just fix the ship and explore more.
Yeah. Good summary.
Yes.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
That is a good point. There wasn't some glib, I'm better from my trauma now.
Yes.
Whereas in a lot of ones there would have been, wouldn't there? There were some terrible next-gen ones with that sort of stuff in, weren't there?
Everything fixed in 40 minutes.
Yeah. So you're right, that is a good point, that she works her way through it and she saves the ship, but she's not all suddenly miraculously healed.
Yep. Medical archaeology was a reference to the older forms of medicine, i.e. stitching people up, so that's what that was.
Yes, but I see. I thought at the time that she was supposed to do the stitching and then he did, and I just assumed I'd been somehow mistaken, but clearly I'm not, because you spotted it as well. She's aces at sewing and she's holding the lamp and he's sewing.
Maybe that was sarcastic and she isn't. But anyway, yeah, it does kind of feel like there's a missing scene there. But and own your sci-fi bonus, sir. Own it. Be proud of your... Yes, we like some spaceships. This is what we're looking for. Just less blurry. Anyways.
Should I dress as the Enterprise then?
Oh, don't. The nasals on that. Anyway, let's find out what Llama God thought of this.
You don't remember me, but I remember you. Episode 3 of Strange New Worlds, then, and this is a great episode. Actually, great episode. It's a nice little cat and mouse submarine warfare kind of story that Star Trek does really well occasionally, and this is one of those times it does really, really well. It's a nice, tense, dramatic action story, which also gets to highlight the characters too. There's a lot of brilliant moments in this, some sci-fi stuff, action, horror, terror. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I love this episode. It's an interesting pick that we're picking the Gorn as the bad guys for this episode. I mean, we don't really see them. We're told that they're the Gorn. We hear them, kind of, sort of, but they remain an unseen threat, which is kind of an interesting choice, really, especially considering how the Gorn have looked, especially in that famous episode Arena from the show with those old scientists, where they didn't exactly look like the scariest things in the world. Probably a wise decision to leave it more to the imagination here, and that kind of just makes them a bit scarier as well, and it's a really nice choice, given that they tie into the background for Lan, who is nice to see this episode focusing on as well. They're still doing that, going from character to character each episode, so that's a lovely little thing that they're doing. But yeah, given that they're focusing on the Gorn here, you do have to wonder if they are going to end up being the big bad for Strange New Worlds, which kind of makes sense, really, because we can't really have the Romulans because they're obviously out of play until Balance of Terror, and I know the Enterprise kind of had them whilst also not having them, but they've done that cheat already, and the Klingons from this timeline have been used an awful lot by Discovery, so we're not going to go there either. So picking the Gorn, I think, is a clever choice of nameless, faceless, big bad threat for them to face. So yeah, I really like this choice. Might be reinventing them slightly from what we've seen originally, but yeah, who cares? This is a good episode, and I'm not going to question that. And what I like is that although there's a lot of action in this episode as well, it's not just shooty and who's got the biggest guns. There's a lot of strategy here as well, because the Enterprise is actually outgunned, and they use some science to get out of things as well as a dollop of nerve and grit, as Pike basically outdares the Gorn ship, which ends up with the latter being crushed. So yeah, there's a lot of elements of everything, and everyone gets a chance to play in this one, and I really enjoy that. Of course, that said, given what the Enterprise went through in this episode, it really should have been completely fucked, and she really should have been written off and taken out of service, but never mind, she's the hero ship. They obviously fixed her, and she'll be back next week, good as new, which is also pretty classic Star Trek. It's not Battlestar Galactica, it is Star Trek, so yeah, she'll be back, so yeah, don't worry about that. And given they don't worry about that, we kind of don't as a viewer either, and that's kind kind of okay. But there's lots of great character moments in this show. It's definitely Lan-centric, and I like that they're doing that. It's a clever device to focus on her, given she's got the experience with these alien bad guys, and yeah, we get to learn a lot more about her from taking things from her point of view a lot. I like that they're doing that. And we also get a little bit more of an insight into Spok as well. When he and Lan go on that search for the War Doctor, he kind of lets slip about Michael, so I wonder how many more times this is going to happen. We get some great Ortegas moments as well. She's quickly becoming one of my favourite characters. Quick and quiet Erica, that's my specialty. Got some great little one-liner quips. And we spend more time with Hemmer as well. He spends time with her. That's a great pairing there. Hemmer's a really great character, and I like him, and I like her. I like just what they have to end up doing together, how they work as a team. And Pike's relief when he discovers that her and Hemmer have survived at the end. That's a really lovely little character moment for him as well. So yeah, everyone gets something. It's brilliant. And not forgetting, of course, Una's sacrifice. She's willing to give herself for another crew member to get the blood transfusion, and then what Mbenga does as well. It shows that they're also all a team together and what they're willing to give and willing to do for each other. I'm just really liking this. This is a good, positive thing. This is a great crew to be hanging out with. And of course, you also get some great spaceship bits as well. The Gorn designs are very unusual, different. The large Gorn ship, very symmetrical, slightly organic in nature as well. I do really like that. That reflects the idea of this being otherworldly, other challenge. I like that. And the scrappy design of the ship that the refugees are found in, it's obviously a Federation ship, but it's not one of the best ships. And I just really like that. It's kind of a cute little design. I will say one of the things that I've sort of realised while watching Strange New Worlds is that I'm not quite as taken, though, with the Enterprise from her exterior as I seem to have been in Discovery. And maybe it's because it's not comparing against Discovery, who's a design that I just really have never gotten on board with. And I think from some of the close-ups in this episode, I've realised that what the issue is that it's got a lot of that Aztec patterning that has been the hallmark of Federation ships since the Next Generation, really. But I think of the Enterprise, well, especially this one, I kind of want slightly more smoother lines and slightly more smoother colours across the whole. Maybe that's just because I saw the motion picture at the cinema a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just thinking that pearlescent white skin, maybe? I don't know. And obviously that's the movie Enterprise, not the original series, and this is a slightly different imagining, but yeah, that's just something that's slightly off. But it's a minor quibble. I mean, the Enterprise is still a really beautiful ship. I still love her, so I'm not going to complain too much. But yeah, this is a great episode. 3 episodes in, I'm loving it, and this is something I've been happy to come back to, and I'll be happy to go back to again. So yeah, more of the same, please. Thank you very much. So as ever, I'm hoping that everyone else is still enjoying this as much as I am. I hope that everyone else has had a normal couple of weeks, and until next time, I'll you and your cast.
Cheers, sir.
Cheers. No, you're right. It is nice the way they focus on a different character each episode, so you're getting to know more
or a different
about
couple of characters.
Yeah,
sometimes, but
yeah. So it's not all about, like in the original series, it was always or nearly always about the big three, wasn't it? And they're not doing that here.
Yeah, I was making that point last week. The fact that actually Pike and Spot were rather sidelined, and that seemed like a good thing to be doing.
Yeah, but they've continued it. That wasn't just a one-off.
Yes.
Yeah. The Enterprise should be... I don't know whether the Enterprise will be in Space Dock next episode.
It should be, shouldn't it, really? Because, I mean, having undergone all that pressure and creaked and groaned like that, that's a lot of work, isn't it? There's a few, more than a couple of dinks just to take out the bodywork there, I can't help feeling.
They had to vent the bloody cargo bay. I mean,
yeah. So, that's an unfortunate thing about Trek, but there we go. Ortega's very good in this.
Yeah.
I do think that Strange New Worlds deals with its minor characters a lot better than Discovery does. I think we've learnt more about Ortega, her character anyway, in these 4 episodes than we did in bloody 3 seasons of the Helms person who I can't even remember the name of in Discovery.
Oshkin.
Yeah, that one. So yes, that's good. The freighter looked good. Yep, very obviously Federation. So it didn't seem like a threat from the beginning, but it didn't have to be. But yes, that whole thing about the Enterprise, you compare it to the movie Enterprise, it's this whole problem with high def. They want, because it's high def, they feel like they have to put extra details in. And it's the same problem with the uniforms. And indeed, I noticed Una's nails, for heaven's sake, have to have patterns, the little command stars on it.
Really? Is that what they are?
Yes, that's what it is. And it's like,
bloody hell.
Just because high def is a thing, it doesn't mean you have to, fill the screen with detail.
Oh, it's a bit like the first Pertwee story in Doctor Who, when everything was in colour with capital letters.
A little bit, yes. Perhaps they'll calm down after a while and realise they don't have to do this. But yeah, it is unfortunate, but there we are.
And finally, Purry. What does he think of this?
Hello, Args. Purry here to talk about Memento Mori. And it's kind of odd. I'd almost forgotten about this episode, and that's not a slight in the episode in the slightest. It's just that this has been a very strong season. So yeah, this one does something that would normally bug me, but actually doesn't in this case, which is event tradition that we've never seen and never seen before, never seen after, which is the Starfleet Remembrance Day. And I actually quite like the idea of it, where you wear a pin of a ship where you lost someone or where you were on a crew where some of them didn't come back. It's the sort of thing that I would expect Starfleet to have, but we've never seen it in any other ship, so you could equally say, no, it's a Pike thing. It could be something, that there is a Starfleet Remembrance Day, but the wearing the pin thing is a specific thing to him that he encourages his crew to do. And we are sort of working through some of La'an's issues with the Gorn. And I kind of like the way that they're building the Gorn up to be a bit of a bad here. We do see... the Gorn ships are an interesting design. I'm actually not keen on it. Purely personal aesthetics here. I don't think they're badly rendered or anything. It's just... I'm never a big fan of slightly blobby asymmetrical ships unless they're done incredibly well. And these are good enough, it's just not quite. So this episode, it does lean into, it's kind of a mix, I'd say, of, if you were going to say it's taking bits of episodes, there's a bit of, I think it's Starship Down, the Deep Space Nine one, with the Defiant kind of trapped in the nebula. There's a bit of disaster in there. There's even a little bit of Balance of Terror in here. They do really lean into the submarine thing. I did like, again, it's just the way the crew works together, the way it is the Spock coming up with using a different sort of sensor into it's not sonar because that's sound, but he finds, I think it's the navigational deflectors detecting the movement of the gas giant's atmosphere. I thought that was really good. The use of the torpedo without its guidance. That's that thing. In fact, the way that the Enterprise was taken down, and one torpedo, no functioning phasers, and the crew still managed to win through cleverness is something I absolutely love. Be it the dropping the torpedo, be it the La'an thing where she got one of the ships to blow the other up. That sort of thing. But at the same time, it's delivered with tension. It's delivered some excellent dialogue. There are little subplots. There's the number one being injured and needing to have sort of old-fashioned surgery done to her. And there's, of course, the one I absolutely love is Hemmer and Uhura in the cargo bay. Again, that's very reminiscent of Disaster, which had your Crusher and Geordi stuck in the burning cargo bay. But this one's actually, it's the way their relationship's developing is lovely. Just the this sort of mentor thing, and I do love Hemmer's bit about pacifism. That pacifism, because she says you're mostly pacifists. Why would you join a quasi-military organization? And his thing of pacifism does not mean being passive, and I think that's really important. All too often, sci-fi has a habit, particularly sort of sci-fi with a militaristic bent, has a habit of going eventually to a might makes right place, or at least sometimes you need the people who are going to break some legs. And I actually think having someone stringently defend pacifism is a really important thing to have. It just makes you like Hemmer more. So overall there's a lot of threads. None of them really don't work. I think they all work quite well. I think just about everyone gets a wee bit of time to shine. Again, possibly Ortega's and number one are maybe left a little light. In fact, the medical staff in general only get their little bits. But overall, this one had me gripped second time round, and I'm still gripped about how everything is going to turn out. And bear in mind, this is a series where I know the ship's not going to be destroyed, and a good chunk of the characters can't die. So the fact that it managed to at least grip me but I have me interested in how they get out of this one is how you do prequels. That's what you do. You don't bank on, will the Enterprise be destroyed? No, it's not going to be. But I'm interested to see how they get out of it, and I think that's the important thing. It's why this has been one of the best prequel series made so far. So all it remains for me to say, aside from this gushing, is do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast, and I'll feedback in the next one. But until then, bye for now.
Bye. Yeah, we know what happens too because we've watched all the way to the end. We're watching these the second time around. I was still gripped.
Yes, it is still
it's
gripping.
Really, really good.
Yeah, and you get more stuff out of a second and third watch that you hadn't noticed the first time round as well. And indeed, sort of seeing them plant a few seeds for later on as well.
Yeah.
Is really it makes a rewatch an enjoyable thing, and I will definitely be buying this on Blu-ray when it comes out.
Hopefully it will.
Yes, I'm sure it will, because they've brought out the previous Star Trek stuff.
That's true.
But, in a way that, I'm never buying season 2 of Picard, so
No.
That's money saved. Anyway, And yes, I'd forgotten about Starship Down. That was DS9's take on Disaster, wasn't it? Yes.
What happened in that one?
That was the one when the Defiant was caught in that. It was the one we saw at Pages, actually.
Was it?
Yes. And as featuring the Karamar, who cropped up in a recent episode of Lower Decks. It was caught in a gaseous field, and they had Jemadar after them, and they were cut off in various bits of the ship in the similar way of the Enterprise in Disaster. So, yeah. The main thing that I remember about that one was Quark and the Karamar guy, who was played by James Cromwell.
Oh.
Under a lot of makeup. And that's really funny stuff.
One of these diodes connects the warhead to the power source. The other one is the firing mechanism.
How do you know that?
I saw a design schematic once.
Where?
At the Ministry of Trade on Karama. We sell these torpedoes to the Jem'Hadar.
I thought you said you never sold substandard merchandise. This was supposed to explode on impact, wasn't it?
Maybe I should offer them a refund.
Grand, thank you everybody for your thoughts. Always good to hear. And yes, unanimously enjoyed. Interestingly, I don't think we've had a duff episode yet, have we? I mean, there may have been bits I've complained about, but generally it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Next time, will I say the same about Spok Amok? Which sounds more like an ice cream than anything. We shall see.
Yeah, it sounds like a Ben and Jerry's, doesn't it? Spok Amok and Chunky Monkey.
That's it. Yes. Now, let's just double check when we're recording this, because life is busy and silly and stuff.
It's the Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, Tuesday the 18th, we'll be covering Spok Amok. So do let us know what you think by then. Until then, take care, cheery bye.
Bye.
And go crush a grape.
When life feels good like you know it should.
The opening music for this podcast was provided by the talented Drew Barker.
The artwork was created by Andy Pelastides.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
And we have a YouTube channel as well.
You can find the Borgcast playouts on Spotify for your listening pleasure.
Visit our Tumblr site at borgcast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or Borgcast Ammo. #Borgcast.
Ooh, I could crush a grape. Chocolate log. And when you're feeling lonely, ooh, I could sing a duet with our dog. I'll show you how you can do it now. It's an easy way that'll make your day. Just say with me, ooh, I could crush a grape. Ooh, I could wrestle an action man.
Shut it down!